Sometimes a company tries to do a good thing, like celebrate a culture, and it just goes spectacularly wrong. Well, that is pretty much exactly what happened when Disney rolled out one of its newest superheroes and the internet just collectively lost its mind. And that quote right there, who approved this? That was basically the internet's immediate gut reaction. It was a question that just exploded across social media and really set the tone for everything that was about to unfold. So you've got this huge gap, right? What was likely intended to be a fun, playful representation landed completely differently. It ended up sparking this massive, fierce online debate. Okay, so let's get into it. To really understand why people were so upset, you first gotta know, who is Captain Durag? All right, so here's the breakdown. The character popped up on a Disney Junior show called Hey AJ. He's this little pint-sized superhero, and as you can probably guess from the name, his whole look is built around a durag, which he wears as a mask and even has one as a cape. And his mission? Well, this is where things started to get really dicey for a lot of people. See, he wasn't saving the world or fighting cosmic villains. Nope. Captain Durag's big heroic quest was to teach the 7-year-old star of the show how to do her chores. I'm not kidding. But here is the real kicker, the timing. This episode didn't just drop on any random Tuesday. It came out in February, during Black History Month, and was featured in Disney's own Celebrate Black Stories collection. For many critics, that context just poured gasoline on the fire, making it feel so much more tone-deaf. So let's look at how people actually reacted online. It was fast, it was harsh, and honestly, it got pretty creative. Commentators even came up with a whole new word to describe what they were seeing. They called it raception. Think of the movie Inception, but for racism. The term was meant to capture this idea that the character was so deeply flawed, it felt like it had layers of problems, like racism within a racism within another racism. And this is the actual quote where the term seems to have been born. You can almost feel the person's brain just short-circuiting as they type it out, this wild mix of disbelief and some really dark humor. And the criticism was just relentless. People called it extremely disrespectful. Some sarcastically dubbed him Captain in the Hood, and others saw it as just another corporate misstep, comparing it to a famously bad Juneteenth product and saying, this is the water turntable shit again. Now, this is where the story gets really wild, because the conversation started with some pretty serious critique, but then it just flew completely off the rails into pure sarcasm and then, well, into total internet absurdity. A lot of the jokes came from this massive contrast, right? On one hand, you have our expectation of a superhero, saving the world, fighting aliens, all that epic stuff. And then you have Captain Durag, whose biggest challenge is an origami chicken and whose superpower is teaching a kid how to fold laundry. The mockery quickly turned into fake movie pitches. One person sarcastically demanded a full-length feature film, suggesting, of all people, Ryan Gosling for the starring role. And this one is brilliant. People started dropping Captain Durag into other, more revered Black superhero stories. They imagined him trying to swim to Wakanda, the powerful, amazing nation from Black Panther, only to, well, drown in a river. It's a pretty brutal joke, but it perfectly highlights the huge gap in representation. So, just when you think this online discussion can't get any weirder, it does. The topic suddenly shifts so hard and so bizarrely, it's kind of the perfect snapshot of how chaotic the internet can be. The whole conversation about racial representation completely derailed and became a deep dive on scented candles. Yes, you heard me, candles. They went from Captain Durag to sniffing Star Trek candles, which led to Gwyneth Paltrow's infamous candle, and finally landed on a Jeremy Clarkson candle with a, let's just say, a very unique scent. So after all the jokes, the outrage, and that very weird detour into scented candles, what's really at the heart of this whole controversy? It all boils down to this fundamental clash. The stated intention was a playful representation meant to celebrate Black culture, but the reception, what people actually felt, was that it was a harmful, lazy stereotype, made 1,000 times worse by the Black History Month timing. Ultimately, the whole Captain Durag saga isn't just about one goofy cartoon character. It plugs right into a much larger and really important conversation we're all having about how different cultures are portrayed in the media. And that leaves us all with the big question this whole mess forces us to ask.
When you're trying to create representation, how do you make sure you're actually celebrating a culture and not just accidentally reducing it to a caricature? It's a fine line, and it's one that creators are clearly still trying to figure out.